Good morning. We are live on the Celtic Way. I am your host, John McGinley. I'm joined by Euan Davidson this morning. We're here to run through all the latest Celtic news and events, which, of course, was a victory for Celtic at Pittodrie last night in the Scottish Premiership. Euan, Celtic move into within 5 points of Hearts. They're now a point above Rangers. How are you feeling about the match last night and kind of the entire situation here?
I think there were shoots of improvement in the match, and we'll definitely talk about specific elements of it. Tactically, there were a few things that were actually pretty enjoyable, I thought. Some questionable individual performances, some really good ones, but it's exactly what you need. I was hearing a commentator say last night we haven't lost to Pittodrie in a decade, and it's a kind of perfunctory 3 points and down the road kind of performance that we needed from Celtic, and they delivered, which is it's not always a guarantee this season. So yeah, job done.
Yeah, some interesting talking points coming out of the match. We'll dig into the match a bit later. First, I think we'll just go over Celtic's remaining fixtures because Celtic and Hearts have now both played the same amount of matches. Rangers too, of course. This is Celtic's remaining pre-split fixtures. Euan, 4 matches between now and April. Obviously, that match at home to Motherwell, and then a double trip to Dundee at either side of the international break, and then at home to St Mirren. As I've been saying quite a lot, I think Celtic need to probably win all of these just to kind of keep things alive going into the split for me. Obviously, we've got Rangers on Sunday as well, but that's in the Scottish Cup. And then this is what we're thinking will be the likely post-split fixtures. Not in this order, by the way, and we're not sure what order they will be in, but Celtic will have 3 home games and 2 away. And I think we're expecting Rangers and Hearts to be at home with Falkirk, and then Motherwell and Hibs to be away. So 9 games to go, Euan. Like, listen, are you a title believer or are you a title skeptic? I have to say, I've been more on the skeptic side of late. But yeah, what's your kind of feelings on all this? Because I know you're more of an optimist than myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's not blind faith. I know that Hearts have been pretty inarguably the best team in the league this season, and it'll take a lot to dislodge them. But yeah, no, I think there's plenty of reason for hope there. I think the biggest sign will be what we do against Motherwell because that's the best defense in the league. If we're able to put if we're able to put 2 or 3 unanswered against Motherwell at home, that's a big sign of what we're able to do for the rest of the season. I think because. From a confidence point of view and in terms of a systematic point of view, like Motherwell are defending excellently. If we can find a way past them, then I think we can find a way past anyone else in the league. I think the mental impact of the Stuttgart away game and our comeback against Rangers is also a really, really good sign. I think when it comes down to, there have been some good or relatively good individual performances across the season, but at this point in time, it's really all about mentality. It's really all about just digging in and doing just enough. Don't expect it to be pretty. Don't expect it to be the kind of ruthless attacking football we've seen from Celtic in years gone by. But I still think there's just about enough to get over the line. And as has been covered, Hearts have massive games coming up. I wouldn't expect them to win all of those. So I still believe. Call me ridiculous if you like, but I still believe.
Yeah, I wouldn't personally colour it as ridiculous. I don't think it's one of those ones where it's kind of like, what's your gut feeling on all this? And I guess my gut feeling still isn't feeling that great at the moment. That's just me. I'm usually pretty. This is a weird one for me, Ewan, because I'm usually pretty optimistic about Celtic. I feel like I have been over the years, but this season just not seen it. David Holmes is certainly more optimistic than myself. We will go top on match 33 at home to St Mirren. That's a prediction and a half here. So yeah, as we're kind of saying there, Celtic at home to St Mirren just before the break. David thinks that Celtic will be top by that point. That would be a remarkable turn of events for me. I'm looking at last night's result, obviously a fantastic result. Then you think about the performance not great. And I guess my worry, Ewan, is like if we play like we did last night against Rangers in the Scottish Cup and at home to Motherwell, again, it's like it's in the lap of the gods whether Celtic get a result or not. I just think the way Celtic played last night, I just feel like Motherwell would have managed to keep the ball far more successfully than Aberdeen and cause Celtic a lot of problems. That's my big worry at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Motherwell and St Mirren are demons that need to be exercised over the next four league fixtures for sure. And the Dundee away, yeah, it gives me a little bit of pause for thought. I think the difficulty is, and I won't speak for all Celtic fans here, but I think we all share this feeling of you genuinely don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
The first half last night compared to the first half of the weekend, you know, like the first half last night, you have McCowan and Hatate coming in a lot faster. I would say considerably more fluid in terms of what we do in the middle of the park, creating opportunities, get that earlyish lead. You compare that to the first half against Rangers, and it's just a completely it's like a completely different football club, let alone a completely different team. So, yeah, that's the thing. Game to game, we don't know what we're getting. So, trying to make sort of any sort of predictions about what Celtic you're going to get, how they're going to look, how they're going to play game is really, it makes our jobs much more difficult, John. And I think it's hard not to take that personally, but yeah, it is anyone's guess. But I do think, I mean, there is that mathematical possibility we'll be taught by the time we get to St. Mirren. And yeah, Motherwell in our games we have to win. Just again, going back to that mentality, and also get numbers on the board, obviously. But in terms of mentality, undoing that doing that we got against Motherwell earlier in the season, when Motherwell were comprehensively the better team, I would say that was probably the most dominant performance against us all season. So, that needs to be kind of, then we need to reach their levels that night, which is so strange to say, but yeah, we don't know what we're getting. We don't know what we're getting, and actually, that's exciting in its own way. It's also terrifying, but it's exciting. Like let's embrace the excitement of this running, because it could be amazing.
Okay, I'll try and move past terror and get into excitement. Jason Mudgard saying if Hearts can win 8 of their last games, then we have to doff our caps to them. So doff, sod off, as the two Ronnies sang. Two Ronnies there, Euan. What about the two Benjamins? How's that for a segue? We've got some chat about Benjamin Arthur and Benjamin Nygren. Because, listen, for a player who's scored 19 goals for Celtic this season, Benjamin Nygren doesn't have caused some amount of debate, which I get to an extent, because I don't think he's a great all-round midfielder, but as an attacking midfielder / striker, I don't think he could have been really more important than he has been this season. Like, it's also his debut season. People don't generally come into Celtic and score a barrel load of goals, but Benjamin Nygren, I think his contribution has been outstanding. And Flipboy saying, could the debate on NG end, as without his goals and assists we're nowhere in this league? I mean, he scored 19 goals in total. He scored 15 goals in the Scottish Premiership. This is his goal map for the Scottish Premiership, and we highlighted this a few weeks ago. But just to reiterate, because there's been more goals scored since then, a crazy amount kind of in that middle of the goal area. This is a poaching striker's goal map. This isn't a midfielder shot map. So Benjamin Nygren's done a remarkable job there for me, Euan, and continues to kind of bail Celtic out. I think 11 of his Premiership goals have been from losing or drawn positions. So he's not just adding on the goal tally when Celtic are 2-0 up or anything like that. He's scoring really crucial goals that are dragging Celtic back into matches or winning matches. So it's the importance of all these goals as well, which I think is remarkable. He scored 19 in total. No other player has reached double figures, Euan. He's scored 11 more goals than any other player in the Celtic side. This guy, what he's doing and how he's dragging Celtic towards staying in this title race is quite remarkable for me.
It's remarkable is the word. And this is a good debate for the comment section, I think. I'm trying to remember a player who's been as widely ineffectual in a lot of the time on the pitch, but also contributed so much. I'm trying to think of those kind of players, and especially midfielders, because he's just so idiosyncratic. I can't remember a player like him. I mean, it's terrifying, again, to go back to terror, which is always a consistent theme this season. It's terrifying to think where we'd be without those goals, because they are, you're right, they're not garnish. They're extremely important goals the vast majority of the time. And I think, and again, I'm incredibly specky, so I'm not entirely sure. Does that say expected goals 4 at the top of that, for the season?
Yeah, but this is self-selecting, so it's only selecting the goals he scored. Right, so it's always going to be much more than expected goals. But no, that's kind of. Yeah, no, I mean, those 3 goals from distance as well, they were remarkable goals. So, I mean, he's doing. I think he's just doing exceptionally well, and I don't think he might never become a massive hero with the support, with the way he kind of goes about his business. He's got a languid style, and he has that kind of trotting about the park kind of bit about him when he's off the ball. But I think goals are the most important thing in football, and when your player scoring 19 goals. I think you've got to back him and celebrate him. So I'm up for a bit of a Benjamin Nygren fan club over the next few weeks, Euan, especially if Celtic continue to kind of push Hearts in this title race.
No, you're absolutely right. At its most fundamental level, like if he scores goals and we win games, then it's hard to really knock anything he does. It's just, yeah, he's so individual. And I wonder how much is instinct and how much is coaching, because I don't under I don't. I mean, I would need to see quite a lot of his previous seasons and kind of maybe follow his career, kind of looking back, because I don't know if he's had seasons like this where he's sort of been given this kind of this free role to roam between the lines and just pop up where needed. I mean, again, the closest thing I could think of in terms of prolific, in terms of goal contributions, maybe Ryan Christie, but then Ryan Christie was much more keen to shoot from distance. Nygren's getting, between the posts pretty much. Like we were saying off air before, he just all of his goals are like, just between he gets into the most advantageous positions possible. He's just such a strange player. And again, it's hard not to have been quite frustrated by some of his performances, because he does seem to sort of disappear, and he's not great at linking up the play sometimes. And then other times he plays out of his skin, but he doesn't get a goal. He, what was it, 1.7 million that we paid for him?
Yeah, not a lot at all.
You can criticize so much of the business, and goodness knows that I do, but that's, I mean, in terms of value, that's pretty outstanding.
And actually, perhaps not coincidental that Nygren was the player Celtic had lined up ready to come in early. Like they'd done their homework on him. They'd put the deal together early. They did it. He was like the only good example of good recruitment last summer almost. Actually, I think the early analysis on Benjamin Nygren's aged pretty well. I remember Alan Morrison did an article for the Celtic Way in the week that he signed, basically describing him as this is going to be Celtic's box crashing midfielder to try and replace the goal output of Matt O'Reilly. And actually, Alan Morrison's analysis has aged very well in that respect. Yeah. We also spoke to kind of people coaches of Benjamin Nygren earlier in his career, who had described him kind of coming through the ranks as a striker. We also spoke to someone from Michelin, a Michelin expert a Nordsjælland expert who had told us that he's very much a goal scorer midfielder too. So I think Celtic knew what they were getting. I think they knew that those goals had left the team with Matt O'Reilly's exit the year prior. And yeah, I think that was, I'm delighted he's scoring all these goals, frankly. At the other end of the pitch, it was Benjamin Arthur's first start last night. An impressive showing from him. Again, it's one game, Euan. When we praise players after one game, I think some people take it as we're going overboard. We're not doing that for that sake. It's just generally, listen, for a first start, getting a call up half an hour before the game, I thought he acquitted himself very well. I thought he looked very comfortable. Had 19 defensive contributions on the night, more than anyone else on the pitch. So he was just incredibly busy as well. He was asked to do a lot. And I felt he was fairly dominant in most things that he did as well. And he did everything all well. There was a couple of kind of shaky moments in that first half. He rebounds from that. He's dominant in the air. He can win his ground duels as well. I like the look of the guy, and I think we'll probably only see him play 2 or 3 times for Celtic in total before he heads back down the road. But you can see why Matt O'Neill's been calling him a future Premier League player for me. Sometimes you just see a player and you think he's got a bit about him.
Mm-hmm. Yep, precisely. I've seen a few very lofty comparisons banded about for Benjamin Arthur. I know people were comparing to Virgil van Dijk, which is wild. I mean, I've watched a lot of old matches, and he's up there with Beckenbauer and Maldini for me. But excuse me, sorry. But Arthur, he reminded me a bit of. He has the game reading and the ability to sniff out danger of Lewis Dunk, I think, at Brighton. He reminds me of just that, and I think he had got 12 clearances last night. He's really good at sniffing out danger before it emerges, and then in the situations where there is a very pressing threat and he has to make a challenge, he's doing it. And I was advocating for him to. This is not a knock on Dane Murray at all, by the way. I was advocating for Arthur to start against Rangers, because I liked that in the brief cameo that he had against Hibs, he was good at doing the basics. He read the game really well, and he had a couple of moments where he progressed the ball pretty high up the pitch, and that immediately put Hibs under some pressure. I think he has all those really positive traits. We've seen players like your more modern kind of ball playing centre back like Nathan Ake, for example, or Kubarsia at Barcelona. I'm butchering that name. I'm really sorry. He has all the tools, and he seems like at 20 years old, he seems like a very, very cultured and intelligent centre back. I'm really, really excited to see what he does in his career. we won't get, as you say, John, we won't get to see an awful lot of him. But what we did see last night, again, very, very small sample size. Nobody's calling him Bereza yet, but like, I was really, really impressed by him. A couple minor errors early on that were fairly inconsequential, but he grew in confidence across the game, and he's put his hat into the ring for Sunday. I can say that much.
Yeah, well, I mean, my personal thoughts on that. I think, knowing who Martin O'Neill is and kind of what he's about, I can just see him going right back to Scales and Trusty for there. But I think Benjamin Arthur will play against Motherwell. I will say that, especially now Dan Murray might have an injury. DQ saying he comes across as a defender who does not break sweat from what you see. I think that's a good description of him. Reads the game for sure, good passer of the ball. I think the point people would make on his passing was that a little bit safe the passing, but I guess that would the passing side of a defender's game, I think, comes with games and consistent game time and consistent time, with other teammates and kind of combining with them and finding where the passing channels are exactly. A passing game for a defender definitely comes over time. I think from like an initial start, you want to see what they can do from just a raw defensive sense, and I think that's probably what I took from Benjamin Arthur last night. As you said, he does everything quite, like, it was all quite simple, but he did it well, and actually you need to do the basics really well. And I think it's a good point about sniffing out danger. There was a moment in the second half where the ball's played into the Aberdeen striker. Benjamin Arthur's just on him straight away, just poking his foot in, getting the ball away, clearing his lines, and that's that kind of defending you like to see. Like aggressive without aggression, if that makes sense. Like just front-footed defending. That's what you want.
Aye, absolutely. And listen, like, I know Aberdeen haven't exactly been scoring bucket loads of goals, but Nisbet and Olasanya is quite a difficult assignment for a player who doesn't know they're playing up until about 15, 20 minutes before kickoff. It was a difficult assignment. Olasanya was he had dangerous moments in terms of his movement. Obviously Nisbet gets that. They win the penalty. Nisbet scores that, but they kept a couple of quite decent strikers at this level really, really quiet. Him and Scales. Obviously gets the basics right very well. You're not going to see him playing 60, 70 yard diagonal passes quite yet, but I do think he has the raw materials. And again, at 20 years old, for a centre back to show that much composure in a game where he's thrown in last minute is noteworthy at the very, very least. And it's easy to get carried away, especially we've had so many false dawns this season, so many players who looked great and then looked a bit average, but.
We're 30 seconds away from calling Benjamin Arthur Player of the Year, and that's what happens when me and you get on a pod. We just wind each other up into optimism. I feel like when me and Hamish get on the pod, we wind each other up into states of depression, where you're the opposite. And we'll move on to Celtic striker debate in a minute, but just a small tribute to one of Celtic's top performers. Yeah, we like that. And that's the Celtic support at Pittodrie last night, singing their adulation for Kieran Tierney, who also popped up with a goal. He's got 5 goals, 11 assists this season. That's a good return for a player coming back to Celtic. Euan, it's not all gone Kieran Tierney's way this season, but I think overall, if you look at the big picture of everything he's contributed, I think he's done well, especially with his fitness issues, which... he took a bit of a knock last night, so hopefully that's nothing too serious. But in terms of his overall fitness, that is improving as well. And I think the Celtic supporter are ready to fall back in love with Kieran Tierney over the next couple of months.
Oh, yeah, no, goodness knows I am. Josh made a really, really good point on the post-match reaction last night, as he's wanting to do. He said it reminded him of Kieran Tierney in sort of 2019, his last season before he left for Arsenal. Really, really enterprising, really willing to get forward, to get into dangerous positions. A really, really instinctive finish last night off by the way, an excellent assist from Liam Scales. Another goal from a set piece, which is very much its own topic. But he just looks a bit more like himself. And I've heard, actually, you mentioned Hamish. I've heard Hamish talking about the injuries that Tierney's had. I know there's some hamstring issues in there and that kind of thing. And building up confidence from, I will never know what this is like, but I've had friends and family who were very, I know what everyone says this, but we're very, very promising footballers at a very good level. And And then you get these massive injuries, and just what that does mentally, what that kind of prohibits you from doing, like taking those risks and getting into the kind of sprints that Kieran Tierney does. So I think there's a lot of work that has to be applauded in terms of what he's been able to do, building himself back up mentally, because it's huge. He would have put so much pressure on himself coming back to Celtic, and he understands. He's grown up as a Celtic fan, absolutely obsessive with the club, and he knows what it means to play for Celtic. So the last thing he would want to do is come back up and not play at the levels that he knows he can. So yeah, you see him busting the gut. You see him getting to the byline. You see him these exchanges with the Tierney that have I think have been quite promising, and of course he's scoring goals. And look, if he's gonna like burst into his best form, why not now? This is the time to do it, because we know everyone that's watched Celtic in the last 20 years knows Kieran Tierney is a special talent, and when he has all the conditions to succeed, he's a game changer. So yeah, absolutely on yourself, Katie. Really, really happy with what he's doing.
Euan, you can always tell it's a tight title race by the amount of scrutiny that offside lines are put under. And for some reason, on my social feeds this morning, I'm just seeing a variety of rival fans questioning whether this was onside or offside or not, which it seems like the most clear-cut decision of the night for me. This is where the ball leaves Forrest's foot, and as you can see, Benjamin Nygren's clearly onside. There's, as I said last night, there's about 5 different angles of this showing that Nygren might be offside, but he's clearly on. I guess that's just that's how you have to take it in a tight title race. Obviously, scrutiny around a potential penalty decision for Celtic as well. Martin O'Neill thought Celtic should have had a penalty. What was your take on those two incidents?
I thought it was offside at first glance, but that's why I'm not a Lido. Like it looked offside to me. Not even Maeda. Maeda wasn't interfering with play, but like I thought he was offside for that goal, but thank goodness he wasn't. That's why I'm not allowed anywhere near VAR or anything like that. As for the penalty, it's a tough one because I think it would have been extremely harsh. I would have been furious if it was us and it'd gone against Scales or Arthur or whoever, because there's not really a lot that the Aberdeen player, I think Jack Millen was it. There's not really a lot that he can do in that situation. I don't think he's necessarily blocking the goal from a massive goal scoring opportunity. I think it would have been extremely harsh. And also, I'm actually quite pleased in a sense, because the last thing that you want in a really, really exciting, marginal sort of a tiny margin for error kind of title race, the last thing you want is to be relying on referees. What I've loved about previous managers, I think Tommy Burns has touched on this, and I think Ange touched on this, and you can't rely on the referees. You've got to be able to play, through whatever decisions the referee makes and make them a non-factor. That's always got to be the attitude for me. So I'm really, really glad it's not come down to decisions made by referees, that have controlled the narrative of this game, because that just for me is never ever a good sign. So I don't think I'm glad people with much more sense than me drew the lines, and I'm quite glad we didn't get that penalty, if that makes any sense. That might sound a bit strange, but I think it would have been harsh. I think it gives the game a different kind of sheen that I don't think
I guess what we can have small mercy for is that the ball wasn't played into Maeda, because he's about 5 yards offside here. Poor Dyson Maeda. He's copping a bit of flack at the moment. Euan obviously had a tremendous goal scoring season last year. It's just not going his way this year, unfortunately. There was that chance in the second half where he's kind of going through. He might not necessarily score from that angle, but the way that he takes the shot was almost comical. These chances that he's missing, Celtic fans just not feeling the vibes with Dyson Maeda at the moment. Do you have any hope there? I guess one of the things you have to consider is that Thomas Tranjara and Junior Adamu aren't really getting the job done either. Do you prefer Dyson Maeda on the left or through the middle right now? And does he just need like a couple of goals to get himself going again? It's a difficult one for me, and I'm struggling with him myself.
Right. So this is going to be a major stay with me moment, right?
Oh, okay. Brace yourselves, everyone.
So first half against Rangers, Junior Adamu is on his own up front. We don't really create anything of note. There's nothing really happening. Our press is terrible. We're not winning the ball back in high up in dangerous areas against Rangers. They play through our press. they create opportunities at will. They get to our midfield, right? Excuse me. First half last night, right? There are good moments, but Chinchara, he's not getting into space. He's quite. You said languid about Nygren earlier. He's not really he's not busting the gut to get into good positions. He's sort of hiding behind Aberdeen centre backs at times. He's not really creating the options. And I know we weren't necessarily crossing a lot, which would have been playing to his strengths, but he wasn't really in areas where he could be dangerous. Now, you bring on Dyson Maeda in the second half against Rangers, and you bring on Dyson Maeda in the second half against Aberdeen. How much more threatening do we look? Right. I know this is insane to say about a striker, but take his finishing out of the equation just now. How much more dangerous do we look overall? And I think it's night and day. Now, obviously, the issue is that Dyson Maeda has forgotten where the goal is. His shooting boots have been sold for parts, I assume. I don't know what's going on there. I had to assume it's a mental thing, or it's a confidence thing, or it's just not following him for the way that he was last season. But I do think, in terms of how Celtic perform, or certainly the midfield and attack sort of coalesce when Dyson Maeda's on the pitch, it just is better. And I do think we play better when he's on the pitch. But again, that's such a weird thing to say about a player who's just so short of confidence and cannot hit the back of the net at the moment. It's such a strange situation.
Do you think he specifically, Celtic play better in an attacking sense, but he's being played as a centre forward rather than as a winger? Is that
sorry? Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
I was just double checking that. I was just like, so you're wanting him to kind of be that centre forward presence that kind of stretches teams, puts them on the back foot almost because of his pace. It frees up space for others. I guess that's the argument with Dyson Maeda.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, if you go back to Nygren's goal chart, I would like to know how many goals have been scored while Maeda's on the pitch, because, you look at last night, you look at the offside goal, right? Maeda is very consciously in an offside position because he distracts attention. He knows he's not going to get on the end of that, and if he does, it's inconsequential because it's offside. But he distracts that attention away from Nygren, who's able to. Nygren finds a really good pocket of space, and he's able to finish. And we've seen that multiple times with other players. It's just, I know it's a striker's job. He's paid to score goals, and he's not doing that for Celtic. And I completely understand that people are going to be watching this and screaming at the screen, going like, "What are you on about?" But again, it's his ability to cause chaos. Even when and similar to Kyogo, when he wasn't scoring, he was still creating these pockets of space where whether it's Matt O'Reilly or whether it's one of the wingers, to sort of cut inside, find these areas where defenders are being stretched, and to score these goals. And again, I do think if you put Maeda in the middle of a front three, generally we look more threatening. It's just
I think it's a fair point, Euan. I don't think you're entirely off base. I guess like the alternative argument is an argument that Celtic don't have at the moment, in that you need a player who can contribute all round and stick the ball in the back of the net. And I guess it's the big frustration. The chances Maeda's missed this season have, they're countless at this point. He's maybe missed more chances than he scored goals last year. That's how bad it's been. Big Dom kind of agreeing with your assessment. He said, play Dyson down the middle on Sunday as his pace will keep Rangers pinned back. I think it's a fair argument. Others are less convinced. Mark saying Maeda's doing nothing in any game and is poor in all positions. He certainly seems to be, strikers are the lightning rod for frustration for Celtic fans last night. I feel like if Celtic had dropped points last night, everyone's raging at Dyson Maeda this morning. That just seems to be the nature of the arguments and the anger around Celtic and football at the moment. But this is a funny comment from Brendan Kelly, which maybe sums up your argument, Euan. The idea of Maeda is more dangerous than the man himself. That's a good one. I like that.
I like that a lot, yeah. I like that a lot. I get the feeling that Mark in the previous comments not going to be buying me a pint anytime soon, but I understand. Like he's a divisive player. And it's a strange argument to have to make about a striker. It's just that, like, yeah, we're better, but he can't get on the end of chances. Like it's bizarre. He's a false nine, but not on purpose. It's a strange one.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see. I mean, I do think actually Maeda might play through the middle against Rangers, because the second half against Rangers at Ibrox was so successful. I think you kind of go with that team as much as possible. Rio Tati got a stat last night. What did you? I mean, obviously in the build up to Celtic's goal, Hatate's involved in kind of conducting that move as it happens. It's him who spots the run of Araujo to kind of play Araujo. A really nice ball, actually. It was quite Like, it looks quite simple on the replay, but just a really nicely weighted ball right into Araujo's feet that gives him the chance to think about what he's going to do with it, who plays it into Forrest, who plays it into Nygren. Are you expecting Maeda and Hatate to start at Ibrox on Sunday is my question, Euan?
I never really know what to expect from the lineups at the moment, which sounds like a cop out. But I think if it was me picking a team, and I think everyone watching can thank whatever collective deity that you wish to thank that it's not me picking a team, I would have them in there. Yeah, Hatate seems to really like playing Aberdeen specifically, which is a good laugh. But it's so, again, like, first half of the season, we're not seeing Hatate make those incisive first time passes that he's making now. And I don't know what's changed, but that second half against Rangers and at times last night, we looked much more fluid going forward. Excuse me, sorry, I had a bit of a throat thing earlier this week. I apologize for clearing my throat so much. Yeah, he's getting into good positions. His scanning is much improved from before, when he was sort of hitting and hoping, or worse, he would just look behind him and play a safe pass, and then move would break down. And how instrumental he's been in some really good moments over the last couple of games. I think you leave Hatate in there. Whether he's a 10 or an 8 at the moment, I don't really know. Yeah, no, I'd leave him in there. And I think McCowan deserves a little bit of credit for his performance, because, again, his end product wasn't ideal by any means. Really not ideal by any means, but
Yeah.
he was buzzing around and making things happen. And next to McGregor, I think it's great to have that kind of mobile midfielder who can, we've seen him on the wing, but he's really mobile. He's good at making that early pass. And Hatate, I think Hatate's creative instincts were really kind of, McCarron gave Hatate a platform to play the way he did, I think. So while that's never going to be our ideal midfield three, I think it is promising for games like this, when we need energy in that midfield and we need to create opportunities in quick transition.
Yeah, it's just, I think McCowan's appearance last night, I think that's a result of rotation. So when a player comes in because of rotation reasons, I think you almost have to give them, not a break, but you have to put their performance into context, in that he was playing last night because I think Martin O'Neill determined other players needed a rest, because Celtic were playing 3 matches in 6 days. And I think in that context, Luke McCowan does the job. He doesn't let Celtic down last night, which is probably what you're wanting from one of these rotation players, although arguably Celtic will need more from them in this run-in. William O'Toole saying, if we can only figure out how to get an effective central forward to push Dyson back onto the wing, I think that could be the key to push to a winning end to the season. Yeah, I mean, that's been the problem for over a year now, and I think it's the positions of the pitch that continually put Celtic down at the moment. And I've praised Yang of late, but I think he was like almost running on empty last night. I think that's also a reflection of how many minutes he's played for Celtic of late, where he just wasn't as effective on that right-hand side. And again, I keep going back to this, but the centre forward position, the right wing position, have just been weak all season, and really I think that's the crux of Celtic's problems for much of the campaign. But we don't need to go over all that again. Hazel Finn was surprised that Ox didn't get any game time, especially as it's what he needs with so few games left. I was actually surprised not to see him at all last night. He was not up to speed against Rangers. I don't expect him to start against Rangers this weekend either. Might come off the bench at Ibrox, but yeah, we're kind of still waiting to see how the Oxlade-Chamberlain experiment works out. Some people, I'm trying to gauge the general sentiment of the chat. I would say it tilts towards the more negative end of the Maeda spectrum than the positive.
That's fair.
But I think your argument was sound. You've actually convinced me, Euan. So maybe that's job done for yourself.
That's that ticks a box. That's absolutely fine. I'm happy with that. I can spend the rest of my day satisfied now. No, in all seriousness, yeah. I mean, I know it's not going to be a popular argument, and I'm not trying to be contrarian for the sake of it. I do just think, based on the evidence of the last couple of games, and we have to go game by game, because that's what Martin O'Neill's doing. God bless him. But we have to go game to game, and whenever I've seen, whenever Maeda's been on the pitch the last couple of games, I just think we've looked better. If only he knew where the goal was, that would be great.
Yeah.
Or if we had...
He'd found it, but he's lost it again. It's like the remote control.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry. Before we delve into too much of my terrible patter, we will call it there, everyone. Thank you for joining us in the live chat today. Let us know what your thoughts are on Dyson Maeda in the comments below. He might be the talking point after this one. But also, show some love to Benjamin Nygren in the comments, everyone. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but surely 19 goals. Surely he's due a bit of praise. maybe sing his praises a little bit more. We appreciate everyone as always. Tony and Ryan back tomorrow morning for the briefing. We've got loads of coverage coming up over the next few days. We've got Chris Sutton interview tonight. We've got Benjamin Nygren interview on the website later. We've got all the press conference coverage tomorrow and more exclusive build-up and analysis ahead of the Scottish Cup test against Rangers on Sunday, which I think the guys will probably be speaking a lot more about tomorrow. We've barely touched on it today, but for good reason. You take a game at a time. And yeah, Rangers haven't earned Celtic's attention this week, so we'll see how it all plays out on Sunday. Euan, thanks for joining me today. Thanks, everyone.
No problem.
We appreciate you all. We'll see you next time on The Celtic Way.